Section 10 of Great Pirate Stories. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Tisto. Great Pirate Stories by Various, edited by Joseph Louis French. Section 10, A True Account of 3 Notorious Pirates, Part 2. A True Account of 3 Notorious Pirates. Howard Pyle, Editor. Footnote: A contemporary narrative from The Buccaneers of America. End footnote. 2. Captain William Kidd. We are now going to give an account of one whose name is better known in England than most of those whose histories we have already related. The person we mean is Captain Kidd, whose public trial and execution here rendered him the subject of all conversation, so that his actions have been chanted about in ballads. However, it is now a considerable time since these things passed, and though the people knew in general that Captain Kidd was hanged, and that his crime was piracy, yet there were scarce any, even at that time, who were acquainted with his life or actions, or who could account for his turning pirate. In the beginning of King William's War, Captain Kidd commanded a privateer in the West Indies, and by several adventurous actions acquired the reputation of a brave man, as well as an experienced seaman. About this time the pirates were very troublesome in those parts, wherefore Captain Kidd was recommended by the Lord Bellamont, then governor of Barbados, as well as by several other persons, to the government here, as a person very fit to be entrusted with the command of a government ship, and to be employed in cruising upon the pirates, as knowing those seas perfectly well, and being acquainted with all their lurking places. But what reasons governed the politics of those times I cannot tell, but this proposal met with no encouragement here, though it is certain it would have been of great consequence to the subject, our merchants suffering incredible damages by those robbers. Upon this neglect the Lord Bellamont and some others, who knew what great captures had been made by the pirates, and what a prodigious wealth must be in their possession, were tempted to fit out a ship at their own private charge, and to give the command of it to Captain Kidd, and to give the thing a great reputation, as well as to keep their seamen under the better command, they procured the king's commission for the said Captain Kidd, of which the following is an exact copy: William Rex, William III, by the grace of God, King of England, Scotland, France, and Ireland, defender of the faith, etc., to our trusty and well-beloved Captain William Kidd, commander of the ship the Adventure Galley, or to any other commander of the same for the time being, greeting. Whereas we are informed that Captain Thomas Tew, John Ireland, Captain Thomas Wake, and Captain William Mace or Mays, and other subjects, natives, or inhabitants of New York and elsewhere, in our plantations in America, have associated themselves with divers others, wicked and ill-disposed persons, and do, against the law of nations, commit many and great piracies, robberies, and depredations on the seas, upon the parts of America, and in other parts, to the great hindrance and discouragement of trade and navigation, and to the great danger and hurt of our loving subjects, our allies, and all others, navigating the seas upon their lawful occasions. Now know ye that we, being desirous to prevent the aforesaid mischiefs, and as much as in us lies to bring the said pirates, freebooters, and sea rovers to justice, have thought fit, and do hereby give and grant to the said William Kidd, to whom our commissioners for exercising the office of Lord High Admiral of England have granted a commission as a private man of war, bearing date December 11, 1695, and unto the commander of the said ship for the time being, and unto the officers, mariners, and others, which shall be under your command, full power and authority to apprehend, seize, and take into your custody, as well the said Captain Thomas Tew, John Ireland, Captain Thomas Wake, and Captain William Mace or Mays, as all such pirates, freebooters, and sea rovers, being either our subjects or of other nations associated with them, which you shall meet with upon the seas or coasts of America, or upon any other seas or coasts, with all their ships and vessels, and all such merchandises, money, goods, and wares as shall be found on board, or with them, in case they shall willingly yield themselves. But if they will not yield without fighting, then you are by force to compel them to yield. And we do also require you to bring or cause to be brought such pirates, freebooters, or sea rovers as you shall seize, to a legal trial, to the end they may be proceeded against according to the law in such cases. And we do hereby command all our officers, ministers, and other our loving subjects whatsoever, to be aiding and assisting to you in the premises. And we do hereby enjoin you to keep an exact journal of your proceedings in the execution of the premises, and set down the names of such pirates, and of their officers and company, and the names of such ships and vessels, as you shall by virtue of these presents take and seize, and the quantity of arms, ammunition, provision, and lading of such ships, and the true value of the same, as near as you judge. And we do hereby strictly charge and command you, as you will answer the contrary at your peril, that you do not, in any manner, offend or molest our friends or allies, their ships or subjects, by colour or pretence of these presents, or the authority thereby granted. In witness whereof we have caused our great seal of England to be affixed to these presents. Given at our court of Kensington, the 26th day of January, 1695, in the 7th year of our reign. Captain Kidd had also another commission, which was called a commission of reprisals, for it being then war-time, this commission was to justify him in the taking of French merchant ships, in case he should meet with any. With these two commissions he sailed out of Plymouth in May 1696 in the Adventure galley of 30 guns and 80 men. The place he first designed for was New York. In his voyage thither he took a French banker, but this was no act of piracy, he having a commission for that purpose, as we have just observed. When he arrived at New York, he put up articles for engaging more hands, it being necessary to his ship's crew, since he proposed to deal with a desperate enemy. The terms he offered were that every man should have a share of what was taken, reserving for himself and owners 40 shares, upon which encouragement he soon increased his company to 155 men. With this company he sailed first for Madeira, where he took in wine and some other necessaries. From thence he proceeded to Bonavist, one of the Cape de Verde islands, to furnish the ship with salt, and from thence went immediately to St. Iago, another of the Cape de Verde islands, in order to stock himself with provisions. When all this was done, he bent his course to Madagascar, the known rendezvous of pirates. In his way he fell in with Captain Warren, commodore of 3 men of war. He acquainted them with his design, keeping them company 2 or 3 days, and then leaving them made the best way for Madagascar, where he arrived in February 1696, just 9 months from his departure from Plymouth. It happened that at this time the pirate ships were most of them out in search of prey, so that, according to the best intelligence Captain Kidd could get, there was not one of them at this time about the island. Wherefore, having spent some time in watering his ship and taking in more provisions, he thought of trying his fortune on the coast of Malabar, where he arrived in the month of June following, 4 months from his reaching Madagascar. Hereabouts he made an unsuccessful cruise, touching sometimes at the island of Mahala, sometimes at that of Joanna, between Malabar and Madagascar. His provisions were every day wasting, and his ship began to want repair, Wherefore, when he was at Joanna,